I'd like to call to order the Lawrence Township Board of Adjustment regular meeting on Monday, July 22nd, 2024. The legal notice required in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act to be satisfied. The state is certified saying will be executed. Please join me in the pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we turn the microphones on, please. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Goldberg.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Trachtenberg.
Here.
Mr. Benoit.
Here.
Mr. Kramer.
Here.
Mr. Woodford.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Uh,
Here
Ms.
twice.
Simmons. Yes. Mr. Hanson.
Here.
Mr. Fishinger.
Here.
Ms. Keller. Here. Mr. Oler.
Here.
And I, Sonia Santiago, here.
Okay. Next is consideration for approval of the minutes of the March 25, 2024 meeting. Any comments on the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve?
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved.
Abstain.
Abstain. Thank you.
Next, we have several resolutions, the first being BA-22-23. Mr. Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first resolution is a memorializing resolution with respect to an application filed by Hanover Estates LLC, who applied to the board for variance relief pursuant to, for D1 variance relief to construct 9 townhouse-style attached residential units within the RA7 zone, as well as D5 use variance relief with respect to density. Properties at 245-251 East Hanover Avenue in the RA7. For the reasons that are set forth in the resolution, the application was conditionally granted.
Okay. Board members, any comments on this resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I have one comment.
Yes.
In our discussion toward the end of the meeting, we talked about the design standards, ordinance in place, and how, to the extent, and how it needs to apply to the project as well. It wasn't mentioned as one of the ordinances to be considered in the resolution. Toward the end, we have to comply with other ordinances and other rules. I'm thinking that maybe that should be included.
Well, it would, I mean, in number 1, right, the condition number 1 says all construction shall be in accordance with all applicable township, county, state, federal law, ordinances, regulations, and directives.
And then it says including some things. I'm wondering whether we should put in there.
It would apply.
Okay.
It would apply.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, the issue with just putting 1 in is I don't want to miss something else. You know, you could say including but not limited to that one to
Right.
highlight it, but all the ordinances apply.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Santiago?
Mr. Goldberg.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Benoit.
Yes.
Mr. Kramer.
Yes.
Mr. Woodford.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, the next resolution, again, a memorializing resolution with respect to the application filed by Rita Fan, who applied to the board for permission to modify an existing non-conforming dwelling by constructing a 1-story addition, which requires variance relief for side yard setback, combined side yard setback, and expansion of the non-conforming structure. That property is located at 18 Brayburn Way and is in the RA15 zone. And for the reasons set forth in the resolution, that application was conditionally granted.
Okay. Board members, any comments on this resolution? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you. a second.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Santiago.
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Benoit,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford,
Yes.
so moved.
The next resolution, again, a memorializing resolution with respect to the application filed by Thomas Giordano, who applied to the board for permission to construct a one-story addition and a portico at the front entryway, which required variance relief for front yard setback to Arrowhead Road, front yard setback to Honeymoon Lane, and for expanding a non-conforming structure. That property is located at 17 Arrowhead Road. It's located in the RA 35 zone, and for the reasons set forth in the resolution, that application was conditionally granted.
Board members, any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. Ms. Santiago.
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Benoit,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford,
Yes.
so moved.
Okay, so, and the final resolution, again, a resolution, memorializing resolution, rather, with respect to the application filed by Columbia Road Partners LLC, who applied to the board to amend its site plan approval to permit the installation of 3 padel courts in a location previously occupied by a single clay tennis court. The applicant also applied for D2 use variance approval to expand its existing non-conforming use. That property is in the OSGU zone, located at 65 Columbia Road, and for the reasons set forth in the resolution, it was conditionally granted.
Board members, any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll give Mr. Kramer.
It's hard.
Second,
Second.
Ms. Santiago.
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Benoit,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford,
Yes.
so moved.
Next, we move on to our public hearings, first being BA 14-23. Ms. Santiago.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is BA 1423, Block Acquisition LLC, Block 5801 and 5403, Lots 1, 8, and 9 on Springfield Road, and 22-234 Mount Kimball Avenue for Section C and D. This is a continuation from November 27th, 2023, January 30th, 2024, and February 12th of 2024 public hearings. Applicant proposes a minor subdivision to create 1 additional lot for the construction of 13 detached single-family carriage houses with other related improvements.
Thank you.
Good evening,
Counsel.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Joshua Kudre, appearing from the law firm of Sills, Cummins, and Gross on behalf of the applicant S-Lock Acquisitions LLC. So it's been a while. Happy to see you all. Hope you're enjoying the summer. Mr. Holler, Chairman.
Spell your last name.
Sure. It's K-O-O-D as in David, R-A-Y. First name Joshua. But please call me Josh.
So where are we going tonight on this?
So I'd like to give a brief overview, Mr. Chairman, recap sort of, it's been a while since we've been here, but I'm not sure if you'd prefer, I believe there are some represented parties in the audience. If you want to have them make their appearances before I begin, I defer to you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Why don't we have any counsel representing any parties give their appearance?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, professionals and staff. Robert McBriar, MC, capital B-R-I-A-R. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Skank, Price, Smith & King. We represent a group of objectors, which consists of approximately 40 individuals. Earlier today, I provided board attorney and Ms. Santiago with an updated list. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Richard DeAngelis with the law firm of Connell Foley. I represent 236 Mount Kimball Ave LLC and Paul Schley, the owner of that owner of that property. We had submitted a letter to the board. As you may recall, there was an issue with the easement that my client has that the applicant initially had planned to open up to the public for the pocket park. That's not now, no longer part of the application. However, we noticed in the current notice that they are intending to remove part of our driveway, which they claim is on their property. We contend, one, it's never been shown to us by way of a mark out. We've asked for it as far back when this application was first filed. And I filed a letter with this board in May contending that even if a part of our driveway, the macadam, is on their property at this point, and I provided the statutory sites, and Mr. Oler can guide you accordingly, they can't remove it at this point in time based on the statute of limitations. And we would therefore respectfully submit that this board doesn't have any jurisdiction over that part of the application. Thank you.
Yeah, So, Mr. DeAngelis, I think we went through this last time, but just in case, it's beyond this board's scope to determine if your client has a valid easement off-site other than whatever the recorded easement is, as opposed to the, what might be the cartway today. So the board's taking jurisdiction over the entire application and all of the property.
The issue is different this time, Mr. Oler, because last time the question was concerning opening up the use of the easement and so forth. But now their applications, their notice specifically says they're talking about removing improvements on our property. That's our easement. It's not even part of the property that's part of the
But you're
application.
claiming an easement
Mr. Oler.
over the property line, right? That doesn't exist
No,
today.
no, we are, allow me to finish, please. Our easement is over 2 lots that are no longer part of this application. Our easement is over the 2 lots that would have comprised the pocket park.
Right.
So this is their proposals for new lot 1.01. Their contention is part of our driveway is on that new lot 1.01. And they're proposing, for whatever reason, to remove that part of the driveway, even though it doesn't impact the remainder of the project. But that's another issue. My contention here is, sir, that this board doesn't have jurisdiction because my client, who has the property interest, does not consent, and it's not part of the application. The property is not subject to the application.
Josh?
I would just like to address, just to clarify and sort of clear the deck on this issue. We are no longer proposing any modifications to the easement or the driveway that may or may not be encroaching on our proposed lot. That was communicated to Mr. DeAngelis via email.
That was not communicated, but thank you very
I
much.
can confirm the date Mr. Vitola sent you the email, but I'm happy to
That's not
just
what-
state for the record that we are not proposing to modify the driveway. We're not proposing to move it. We're not proposing to touch it. So
You send a letter to council.
I will send confirming letter.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Okay, any other council members? Okay.
Great. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, just to reiterate for the record, the subject property that we're speaking about this evening is commonly referred to as 9 Springbrook Road, and it's identified as block 5801 lot 1. The property is owned by Springbrook Country Club, and it is a underutilized portion of the club property that is not part of the 18-hole golf course and not improved with any structures or accessory buildings. It's primarily utilized as an open-air storage area for off-site maintenance and of public utility service equipment. The club has determined that the subject portion of the property is no longer required for its operations, and the applicant is under contract to purchase that portion of the property. The property is located in the open space government use zone district. And I just want to confirm, as it was represented by objecting counsel at the beginning, when he was entering his appearance, that the property is known as 234 Mount Kimball Avenue, block 5403, lot 8, and 232 Mount Kimball Avenue, block 5403, lot 9 are no longer part of the application. The board will recall that the applicant previously contemplated installing a pocket park with walking paths and other landscaping improvements on those lots, but we did hear concerns from the board and members of the public regarding pedestrian access, parking, traffic, et cetera. So those have been eliminated from the proposal. So the project, as it's before the board this evening, the applicant is proposing to subdivide a portion of lot 1 consisting of approximately 208,112 square feet. That's approximately 4.778 acres. And we are proposing to construct a single-family residential development consisting of 13 single-family homes. We've reduced that number of units from the prior proposal of 16 to 13. And
just want to remind the board that the development will be operated and managed by a homeowners association, and they will be responsible for all refuse and recycling collection, landscaping, snow removal, common area maintenance, etc. These will all be market units. We're not proposing any affordable housing on this property as we're not required to by ordinance. However, while we're not required to do that, we've heard the board's comments and concerns regarding that aspect of the application, and the applicant previously committed to and remains committed to making a contribution to the township's Affordable Housing Trust Fund to support other affordable housing projects in Morris Township. So I just want to highlight briefly, Mr. Chairman, some additional plan modifications. Hopefully, maybe I can address some of the questions from interested members of the public. So the new access roadway has been revised to include a cul-de-sac at the end of the roadway with a width that was increased to 22 feet. A fire truck access plan was added to the site plan that will be testified to by Mr. Schomer this evening that demonstrates that the roadway accommodates Morris Township's fire truck equipment. The plans were submitted to the board and the fire chief on or about May 9th, 2024. And I just want to confirm for the record that the circulation was found to be acceptable by both the fire department and the board's traffic engineer in his latest review letter, comment number 6 specifically, in the letter dated July 18th, 2024. The circulation pattern has also been revised to include a dedicated pull-off area to accommodate maintenance delivery of vehicles. All front-facing garages, which had been concerned previously, have been eliminated to comply with the municipality's design standards. And the building-to-building spacing between each unit has been increased to provide a minimum of 20 feet, where 15 was previously proposed. As I noted, Mr. Schomer will touch on those modifications in more detail as well as others, and we'll also discuss the variance relief and de minimis exceptions from RSIS that we're seeking. So the applicant's aware that the property that's before the board this evening has been targeted in the past by other developers for higher density multifamily residential, but we continue to believe that this type of residential development is the most appropriate for this property. Just for housekeeping purposes, notice was published in the Daily Record on July 11th, 2024, and the notice was mailed via certified mail on July 12th, 2024. Our office submitted an affidavit of service and proof of publication to Ms. Santiago on July 17th, 2024. We'll just ask for the record if Mr. Oler could confirm sufficiency.
Mr. Chairman, I can, and board members, I can tell you, we reviewed the notice. The notice is in proper form, was mailed by certified mail timely and published timely, so the board has jurisdiction.
Thank you, Mr. Oler. Appreciate that.
Before we go on, this, we were expecting Mr. Schuster, but he hasn't shown up, so Ms. Simmons, please come on.
And just to confirm for the record, she's been here since the beginning, obviously, as roll call.
Yes,
sake,
we
so
have,
just
Was
wanna-
on the roll call.
I know. Just want
And in every meeting, in the one meeting she wasn't there, she's certified that she's ready to treat.
Mr. Chairman, you're ahead of me, and I appreciate it. So as far as witnesses go this evening, I mentioned we'd like to recall Mr. Rusty Schomer, who's the applicant's professional civil engineer with H2M Associates, and we also have our professional traffic engineer, Craig Paragoy, from Dynamic Traffic. We know we'll be coming back for another meeting, at least we anticipate that we will be doing so. So we plan to present the testimony of our professional planner, Mr. Michael Tobia, at that future meeting. And then, Mr. Chairman, as previously requested by you, Mr. Tobia will prepare a written report, a planning report that will be submitted to the board at least 10 days in advance of that meeting.
Great, thank you.
Of course.
We do make sure that it also gets forwarded to council.
Absolutely, we'll do. I already committed to doing that, and I'll certainly make sure that gets done. Just to keep me honest, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it. I don't want to, there's been a number of review letters issued in connection with the application. I don't want to go through all of them item by item, but I do want to just confirm receipt of the most recent ones. The traffic review letter dated July 18th, 2024.
We have that,
Fire department letter dated July 16th, 2024.
we have that.
And a report letter from Southeast Morris County Municipal Utilities Authority dated today, July 22nd, 2024. And those are the most recent revisions I have, Mr. Chairman.
We have those, yeah, we'll be discussing, I guess, in further detail.
Absolutely.
The water issues on that.
We will.
Okay, great.
And then I guess just last bit from me before I finally get into it. The objectors council, Mr. McBriar noted that an updated list of objectors dated July 12th, 2024 was submitted. Mr. Arlo, do we want to mark that?
Yeah, we are, we can do that, Josh. So the copy that I have, again, updated July 12, 2024, submitted by Mr. McBriar. We'll mark that as 04. You know, Mr. McBriar, I just want to point out as well, wherever you want to sit, that, and really to all of the clients, your clients on this list, in the event any of them have questions of witnesses, that's going to go through you. So they would not be permitted to ask questions since you're doing that on their behalf. They would, of course, be allowed to testify when we get to that part.
I appreciate that, and that those points have been conveyed to the
Great.
group. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm finally finished with my introduction here.
Okay.
So I'd like to call Mr. Schomer, please.
So, Mr. Schomer, would you raise your right hand, please? You solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
And your full name for the record, please?
Richard B. Schomer Jr.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Schomer, you were previously qualified and accepted as an expert in the field of civil engineering by this board. Just want to confirm that your licenses remain in full force and effect since the last time you were here.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, Mr. Schomer, on May 9th, 2024, your office submitted, and it's a few documents, so I'll just itemize them for the record. Number one, summary of plan revisions and a TCC comment response letter. Number two, a revised site plan with a revision date of May 6th, 2024, a revised stormwater management report, and correspondence to the fire chief regarding the fire truck access plan that I mentioned during my opening remarks. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, why don't you begin by providing the board with an overview of the proposed plan revisions to the site plan?
Sure. So let's do, in terms of getting this up on the screen. Here's my technical advisor here.
We all thank Kaylee for being the technical advisor.
That's right.
And then obviously, Mr. Schomer, if this is something that hasn't been previously submitted to the board, we should mark it into evidence. And I believe, Ms. Santiago, we're up to A11.
That is correct.
That's mine.
Thank you.
There you go. Okay, and then just- This is the stuff on the side.
Okay. So it looks like we have the exhibit up on the screen, Mr. Schomer. If you could just briefly, before we formally mark it, can you just describe what this exhibit is, beginning maybe with a title and a date?
This is an update. We had previously provided a rendering of the site plan, and that's what this is. And this one is similar to the exhibit we presented before. This one is dated May 16, 2024.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so that's A11.
Correct.
Okay, so let me just, so just for orientation, good evening. It's been a while since we've been here on this application, but and Mr. Kudre kind of went through things and hit on a lot of the highlights. Just again, for orientation, what we've rendered here is the site plan, and Springbrook Road is at the top of the page here. And I think move this, you kind of see at the top of the page is Springbrook Road. Vertically on the left side of the exhibit is Mount Campbell Avenue or Route 202. So Springbrook Road comes off of Route 202 and then comes down, and we have this frontage on Springbrook Road. Across the street is the firehouse, sort of up and to the left is the firehouse. And you can see the 13th hole of Springbrook Country Club Golf Course down on the lower right-hand side. Orientation of the site. As Mr. Coudray said, this rendering and the plans that were submitted now show 13 new single-family homes. And just as a reminder, this is not a subdivision like we often see of 13 individual lots with a house on each lot. It is a single development of 13 single-family homes. We've kind of characterized them as carriage homes, but it is on a single property. So a little bit different than what we often see in that regard. As Mr. Coudray said, we will have a homeowners association which will be responsible for maintenance of the common facilities, and that provides for some efficiencies and uniformity in maintenance of the site. Lots 8 and 9, which were mentioned earlier, which were the area of the Pocket Park, and they're over on this left side. So there are these 2 wooded lots to the upper left-hand portion of the exhibit as we look at it. And as you've heard, those are no longer part of the project. So the new roadway that's, say new roadway, the layout is similar to what we've seen before. The road has been shortened, and you can see we have this loop cul-de-sac at the end of the roadway that provides for enhanced access, circulation. The fire department looked at this, and Chief Nunn has indicated he's satisfied with this for fire access. We included in the plans circulation for the fire truck entering the site off of Springbrook Road, exiting the site onto Springbrook Road, and circulation through the site and around the cul-de-sac. So that's adequate. We, in this plan, revised the width of the roadway. Originally, we had proposed it at 20 feet. It's now proposed to be 22 feet wide. If you recall earlier, in earlier testimony, I indicated that the width is a little narrower than what you might normally see, but we have battered curbing on the sides so that it allows for accessibility, but we've widened it to 22 feet for a little bit of enhanced accessibility, and that 22 feet is the entire road and all the way around the cul-de-sac.
Could you explain what battered curbing means?
Sure. Battered curbing is also called mountable curbing. So it's on a slant. So instead of vertical curbing, it's at an angle. Roughly, let's say it's a 45-degree angle for general discussion. So that what it does is when you have a narrower roadway, it actually doesn't make it feel as narrow. So for accessibility, that's commonly done. We did this same type of approach on another development in Morris Township, James Place, which is a 96 unit project, which actually had narrower roads. It had 20-foot roads with battered curbing. So we've used this approach on a few different projects, and it works very well. That way you don't have excessively wide roadways. You can narrow the roadways, but still not be concerned about the curbing on the sides. So it's a kind of curbing also called mountable curbing. If a truck or a fire truck, for example, even touches it, it doesn't damage tires and wheels and so forth. So it's good in that regard. With the reduction from the 16 units to 13 units, the spacing has been increased. We have a minimum building to building spacing of 20 feet, and that's really only at a couple of spots for the most part, and throughout the project, the spacing will be much greater than that. We talked about how the garages face earlier. We had originally some side-facing and some front-loaded garages. All of them have been revised. Now they are side-facing garages, so all of the garage doors, none of the garage doors face the street. All of them face to the side, and you can see that in the rendering here. I was just going to try to maybe enlarge a little bit here so we can get a little better look at. You can see the layout in terms of all of the garages. I mean, all of the driveways come in and lead to a side-facing garage. We have a dedicated pull-off area in the island at the cul-de-sac, and it's for either trucks, delivery trucks, landscape trucks or something like that. Again, we're not going to have 13 different landscapers coming and serving these homes. We're going to have one because it is going to be operated and maintained by a homeowners association. We had talked about this and actually shown this on a prior plan, but it continues to stay with this plan. We have visitor parking throughout the site. We have 10 visitor parking spaces, and these are areas which a little bit of cross-hatching. We have 10 of those, which meets the requirement, is more than the minimum requirement for visitor spaces for the project. The length of those visitor spaces has been increased so that they are 22 feet in length. That allows for the parking space of 18 feet and allows for clear passage behind it, so that where you have a sidewalk running behind that or in that area of that visitor space, that you can continue to walk as you would in a sidewalk. You don't have to go out into the street. So we have that available with and length for the parking space and for the walkway. There's a couple of items that had come up earlier with respect to the residential site improvement standards and some de minimis exceptions with respect to that. One of those dealt with the width of the road. Again, we have a 22-foot wide road. The requirement under the RSIS would be for a 24-foot wide road. Again, with the small nature of the project, the use of the battered curbing, the extra length of the visitor parking spaces, which is another item, but extra length of the visitor parking spaces allows for adequate maneuverability. You can pull into the spaces, you can back out of the spaces. You have as much space to pull in and back out as you do in any other standard parking space, even in like a standard parking lot. So we provide that dimension. One of the other RSIS de minimis exceptions that was brought up, I think in the traffic engineer's report, deals with minimum width of a driveway of 20 feet when you have a 2-car garage and a driveway combination. So we have all side-loaded garages now. Previously, we had some front-loaded garages, and I really think the intent of that RSIS standard deals with when you're approaching and you have 2 cars in the garage space, and you have a couple of spaces in front of that. The RSIS calls for a 20-foot wide area. We do not have that front-loaded situation anymore. They're all side-loaded, and there is room as you enter into the driveway off of the street. The driveways are 12 feet wide, and then you can turn, and there's a space to turn into the garage, and there's space in front of the garage. So to the extent that a de minimis exception is required from RSIS, we think it's appropriate. There's adequate space for maneuverability into the driveways and into the garages. There's adequate space for maneuverability into and out of the visitor parking spaces that are stationed along the roadway. So we think there's adequate space for all of that, and that this arrangement and these dimensions would function adequately. And this has been field tested, quite frankly, as I said, in other projects in the township where it does function adequately. So I just wanted to touch on those couple of items. We had previously, and just talking about parking spaces, the township did make a change in size of parking spaces. Originally, we had needed a variance from size of parking spaces. That's no longer needed. So the parking spaces conform to the municipal standard. We had also previously requested a variance for height of walls where we had a retaining wall and we had a fence on top of it. That's been eliminated by the change in the design, so we're no longer seek any relief on that. We did, in the revised plans, provide for some site distance triangle at the intersection of the new road and Springbrook Road. This had been a request from the board's traffic consultant, so we showed that. I know that Mr. Fishinger, in his latest review that we just got, had a couple comments about that. I'm confident that we can address those comments and meet that. He wanted to show the where you sit in the car looking a little bit further back and want it to look a little further out. And we can accommodate that. One of the things we want to be sensitive to is some of the trees that we do want to retain right near the intersection. We have existing trees that we want to keep. We'd like to keep those. But basically those trees are fully grown and we want to maintain those.
And Mr. Schomer, just for the record,
Yes.
to confirm, you're addressing comment number 7 in the latest revision to the traffic review, I believe. Is that correct?
I don't know the comment number, but
It's correct.
it's in the,
Number 7.
okay, I'll
Yeah.
take your word for it. It's in the latest. I know, I read the report and it was in there. But we can show or a slightly revised sight distance triangle at the intersection, and I'm sure we can comply. As I mentioned, the emergency vehicle access and circulation has been addressed with this, with the latest plan, so I think we're good there. The overall, sort of complexion, if you will, here with the driveway coming in and now a new loop road, but with a reduction in the number of units allows us to have some more space between the units, as I mentioned, and space around the outside. This exhibit is reflective of the landscape plan, which was submitted as part of the revised site plans. And you can see we have a good buffering of trees. As I mentioned, we're trying to retain as many of the existing trees as we can along Springbrook Road and also along the golf course side and even elsewhere through the site at the perimeter particularly. So we want to try to retain those, but we're also enhancing that with a significant additional buffering of trees at the perimeter. The township has a requirement for tree replacement with removal, and we went through this before. With the current plan, we've reduced the number of trees to be removed. We have a total of 105 trees being removed. The replacement requirement under the ordinance is 185 trees, and we are meeting that and exceeding that with a replacement of 198 trees. So there's a requirement for, depending on the size of the tree you're taking down, that's why more trees have to be planted than are being removed. So we're taking down 105, but because of the size and your scaling of trees, we're required to have 185. But with the trees we're putting in, we actually get credit for 198. That includes actually an installation upsizing some of the replacement trees so that they actually get counted. We get some credit for some additional planting, but the total number of replacement tree credit proposed is 198, again, more than the minimum required. The plantings that we have on the landscape plan, we also have a number of hundreds of shrubs also going in, which will also provide buffering. One of the things that I'll mention is that the new plantings comply with the township's do not plant list. The township has a listing of plants that they don't want to see planted, and that's consistent with New Jersey standards for invasive species and so forth. So there's a number of plants that we don't want to see planted, and the landscape plan complies with that do not plant list. The kind of the general arrangement of the road and houses is similar to what you've seen before, and to that extent, the drainage is going to be similar to what we've seen before in terms of how we're handling it. We previously actually had 3 small detention basins on here. We've actually reduced that down to 2, and those are down at the downstream end of the site. So we have a couple of detention basins, and then we have an underground infiltration system. All of this is to address water quantity, so the total runoff from the site, as also addresses water quality. That's primarily what the 2 small detention basins do. They function as water quality basins, and then the infiltration system to promote groundwater recharge and infiltration back into the ground. that's consistent with what we've presented in the past plans. It's been revised a little bit based on the change in the plans from the 16 to 13 units, the change in the roadway. We actually have some less impervious coverage than we did with the original plan. So we've modified the plan to be consistent with that. I think the last thing to touch on, and we did get a letter from Chief Nunn, and I know we got one just today from the Southeast Morris County MUA. On that, we modified the layout of the water system, the water lines that run through the road, and the location of hydrants. The MUA reviewed it, and they'd like to see some different positioning of the hydrants, which I don't think is an issue. I've spoken to the MUA just today about their comments, and I told them that, you know, some of the things you have are a little different than what the fire department wanted, and they said that's fine. We can work those details out as to where a hydrant goes. That's really not an issue. One of the comments in there what also addresses a hydrant that we proposed at the request of the fire department. They wanted to see a hydrant on the fire department property, which is across the street. So we had agreed to provide that fire hydrant on the fire department property at the firehouse there. The MUA simply says that they can't have their own private hydrant without coming in and seeking to get that as their own private hydrant. So, like I said, I spoke to Patricia Danhart at the Southeast Morris County MUA just today about her review letter, and she said, you know, we'll work that out, but there's a process. Basically, she says for obtaining a private hydrant on land like that. So that's where she says it should be in the right of way, but if they want to have it privately, we'll have to go through that process. The key, I think, to the to fire service is really the circulation element, and like I say, the access into the development and egress and circulation around on the road is adequate. The placement of a fire hydrant, you know, a little bit here or there is not. We can come to an agreement between the fire department and the MUA on that, I'm sure. I think that's.
Mr. Schomer, from me, just two questions. Since we're on it, the SMC MUA letter indicates that we are now seeking to propose irrigation for the landscaping. Is that accurate?
Yes, we are.
Yes. I just wanted to confirm that for the record.
Yeah, I did speak with her about that, and we'll just have to provide the appropriate metering for irrigation system.
And then just one other comment in the traffic review letter, comment number 8. It relates to the proposed striping being MUTCD compliant. I just want to confirm for the record that we intend to comply with that requirement, correct?
We will, and in fact, the note on the plan says new MUTCD compliant striping right up at the intersection in that what Mr. Fisher calls the Gore area. But the short answer is yes, we will comply.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schomer, do you have anything else on direct?
Not on my notes right here.
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have right now for Mr. Schomer.
Some questions on the visitor spaces. Traffic report indicates that there should be some delineation between the spaces and the sidewalk that's going in front of it. You said they're 22 feet long. That would give 18 by 9 for parking.
Correct.
How is the sidewalk going to be shown? Is there going to be a sidewalk going through so that anybody pulling in will know that they have to clear the sidewalk?
We don't have the sidewalk actually going across those spaces because and I should have mentioned that the visitor spaces are all using permeable pavers, which is actually part of the stormwater management system for stormwater quality. So we were keeping the permeable pavers all the way out to the street. It could be designated either with some striping, difference in coloration of the permeable pavers or something like that, so that there would be a delineation of where the walkway is to where the parking space is. So,
Yeah, when you're coming off Springbrook Road, the first two visitor parking spaces that you come to are on the left side of the road.
Yes,
They look like they're 18 feet still.
with a 4-foot distance from the back of the space to the curb line. So there's a 4-foot dimension there's an 18-foot dimension and there's a 4-foot dimension.
Okay, so that,
The total is 22.
black line indicates it's crossing the first space, indicates the delineation where the 18 feet go to.
The first 18 feet, right, and then the back end of those, back behind the spaces is a 4-foot space between the space and the curb line.
How would you delineate where the sidewalk's supposed to be so that cars don't park on the sidewalk? How are we gonna do that?
What I was just suggesting is that there could be either striping or a difference in the coloration of the permeable pavers is one way to do it. Alternately, we could run the concrete sidewalk all the way through there, but it's primarily a parking space and we were using the permeable pavers. If there's a preference for one over the other, we can do it either way. But it could be done with either a striping or really, like I say, a delineation in the permeable pavers.
I think I'd be leaning towards the different colored pavers. I don't know what the other board members would think about that. Any opinion?
I tend to agree with that. The striping colors can fade.
Yeah, striping can fade and then who's gonna put it back again, and this way we know for sure where it is and where it isn't.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think there's any objection to that, and we could submit a revised exhibit just demonstrating that condition.
That'd be great, thank you. So there's no problem with the 12-foot width of the driveway going up to the garage in the space, turnaround space in front of the garage, is that correct?
Yeah, they may still technically need the de minimis exception because it says 20 feet for a 2-car garage. The concern is to make sure you have enough space in order for a 2-car garage with 2 spaces in front of it to count as 3.5 parking spaces, which they have the space to do it. They've just narrowed the driveways because the garages don't face the road anymore. So I don't have an issue with it because of the configuration they have, but just to be safe, I think they probably do still need the de minimis exception.
And then on the hydrant, well, let's go back to the water lines. You were saying you've been speaking with the utility
Yes,
and you said you'll work it out. So what you're saying is that a condition of approval would be obviously satisfying their conditions?
yes, yeah.
Or
I've talked to.
coming to an agreement with them?
I've talked to the MUA and we'll work out exact placement with the fire department. So,
Okay. And, but also they're talking about a water line extension, I believe.
well, we're proposing an extension of the water main along Springbrook Road from Mount Kemble Avenue all the way down to, I'll say this end of Springbrook Road where near the entrance to Springbrook Country Club.
So go all the way through.
It's going to go all the way through. That's on the plans today. That was part of the plans that were revised to previously address an MUA comment. So that's still part of the plans, and we will have a hydrant along that line as well. So that's agreed to. It's really internally, is the hydrant in one spot or another? MUA suggested having it at the high point, which really makes sense. Because that's where otherwise you have to have a blow off valve or something like that. So the hydrant at the high point is really the best place to put it. I think the biggest issue perhaps was the fire department's private hydrant that they said, well, there's a process for that. You can't just give them a private hydrant. So everybody has that. So Jill said, and the comment I got back was, we'll work it out. And if we have to have a meeting in the field, we can do that. So.
You haven't mentioned anything about the drainage. When I was looking at the revised plans, the portion of the lot that's closest to Mount Kimball Avenue, so that would be on this diagram up on the board to the left. All those properties coming off Mount Kimball slope down towards this property, is that correct?
Mount Kimball is higher and it slopes towards this property,
Yeah,
yes.
so, you're gonna, when you did your calculations for runoff, did you include the runoff coming off those properties?
So that runoff is going to come in and get collected. We have a drainage system sort of on the left-hand side of the plan as you look at it, and there are some inlets there that would get collected and would get connected into the storm sewer system in Springbrook Road.
Yeah, I saw 2 inlets. Does that collection go all the way across along the back of all the houses that are on that side?
It picks up the water along that side and then it takes it out towards Springbrook Road.
But when I was looking at the plans, say for unit 7, the ones in the lower left corner, as you're looking at this diagram up on the board, there's no collection point along there and behind there, that property or that unit. And I was wondering how that water that's coming down off these other lots are going to be collected at that point.
So that would then run basically to the, I'll say down the page, sort of plan south, if you will, then down to that, in that direction, so that basically the water that comes down toward the back of those units either goes in one direction or another.
So the pitch is sufficient to remove all the water. And where does that water then go into? That goes into the drainage easement down along the back of the other houses going back towards Springbrook Road?
Well, the runoff that's collected at the back of those units, yes, gets piped over to and goes into the collection system in Springbrook Road. So there is a storm sewer system in Springbrook Road along Springbrook Road.
Right.
And we're actually going to be making some modifications to that and enhancing that because one of the things that was part of the plan previously, but just as a reminder that we are putting curbing all along the frontage on Springbrook Road along there. So we're going to be providing a clean edge with new curbing and a uniform edge of pavement. So there's storm sewer there today, and we're going to be utilizing that and enhancing that. But that runoff from the back of those units goes tie into that storm sewer
Tie right
system, into the storm
runoff.
sewer in Springbrook Road, correct.
Okay. And not go into any of the underground filtration systems?
That doesn't go into the onsite system.
Mr. Hanson, do you have any comments on that?
No, I've reviewed the drainage calculations and they meet the requirements for reduction and for stormwater recharge.
Okay.
What they're doing is just collecting the off-site water and taking it around the site.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Just a confirmation, with the reduction in the number of units as well as the realignment of the garages, does that change the size of the units or do they still remain the same?
They're the same as what we showed before.
Okay, and that was about 3,600 feet for each unit?
In total square footage, I'll say yes, but I don't have the exact number off the top of my head.
Okay,
But the units we're showing are really basically the same as what we had before. Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Just,
Any other
yeah, one question. In Mr. Finch's report, item 4 with regarding the snow removal, I think I had heard Josh mention that they're going to be responsible for all snow removal. Maybe I missed it. Did you elaborate on that?
I didn't elaborate on it, but basically, well, snow will be pushed off to the side of the road. There's green space, in front of the yards. There's space in the island, so there's space to push snow. If it gets to be too great of a snow load, then it would have to be carted off site. But by and large, this would be similar to a street with other single-family homes on it, where the snow is plowed off toward the side of the road.
Thank you.
Would the visitor parking be impacted by the snowplow?
Well, they'd need to be plowed, yes.
Okay, they'd be plowed.
Oh, sure.
Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Chairman, we don't intend to utilize the visitor parking spaces for snow storage.
And Rusty, this is a private road, so that'll be a private hauler for snow.
That's
snow
correct.
removal.
Correct. Thank you. It's a private road, privately maintained, and private snow removal, correct.
So for these type of developments, whether it's for on one lot or just a regular neighborhood, so the driveway, the snow on the driveways, the HOA, whoever's responsible comes in, and the snow on the driveways won't be moved into the street. It'll just be pushed off to the side in some capacity.
Right.
Not,
Yeah, you can't push your snow into the street
Okay.
and block everybody else, right?
Right. All right. Thank you.
Any other board members with questions?
Quick question.
Yes.
You mentioned deliveries as an access point there for deliveries. Are like all delivery trucks going to place their deliveries in one spot and homeowners come out and get it, or?
No, we
Okay.
simply provided a pull-off area. This was something that came up in a prior board discussion. Is there a spot for, trucks to kind of pull off? So it's simply an area as a pull-off area. But no, it would be like other single-family homes. If somebody needs to drop something at a particular house, they could do that.
How about mailboxes? Is it one spot for all mailboxes?
We did show that actually adjacent to that pull-off area.
Okay.
We had a network of, there's a little pad there and a network of mailboxes.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if that was it.
Yes.
Any other questions from the board? Yes.
You said, I think at the beginning, it was said trash will be private also, but not dumpsters. Each home is going to have its own containers.
Well, they'd be private containers with a private hauler, yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yes, Mr. Kramer, to answer your question, each home will have their own garbage cans and they'll place them out for pickup. It will be a private hauler, so no dumpsters.
Okay. Any other questions from board members? Any of the board professionals, any questions? No. Okay. Council, any questions?
Good evening, Robert McBriar, again, attorney representing a group of objectors consisting of approximately 40 residents. Mr. Schuler, lots 8 and 9, including the pocket park, were removed from the new plan. Why was that?
I think Mr.
I could
Kudrow
address that.
answered that
Yeah.
in his earlier discussion.
As you know, Mr. McBriar, from prior hearings, there was concerns raised by residents as well as your clients, some of their objections regarding traffic, access, et cetera. It was a business decision made by the applicants based on that feedback to eliminate that. What we thought was a nice amenity, but frankly, it was causing more concern.
Are there any plans that you're aware of for the development of those lots?
That would not be a question for Mr. Schomer. I can't answer that question, what may or may not be done with them in the future. We are no longer under contract to purchase them, so can't speak to that.
The homeowner property, I think it was just asked and answered, but that property will be exclusive private property for the residents, correct? So no public access to the sidewalk area for pedestrians, for biking, riding, walking, et cetera?
When you say the homeowner property, what do you mean?
The sidewalks on the plan, the ones that surround New Road A, those sidewalks will be private property, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so no one from the public will be able to access these sidewalk areas.
It's part of the homeowner association, so.
Okay. Are there any dedicated areas within the development slated for children to play, like a park or a playground
I'm happy to
area?
answer all these questions, Mr. McBride, but do we have any questions for Mr. Schomer? Because if not, I should be sworn in to answer some of these.
I didn't know if he knew the answers to them or if you did. I thought,
Yeah, he didn't
insofar
testify.
that
He
they,
didn't, but he did go through the whole
So
site plan, so I think that's a fair
I
question.
can
for
answer.
Mr. Schomer.
There's no playground or amenity spaces like that shown on the plan.
okay, do the internal sidewalks, do they extend at all towards Mount Kimball Road or do they terminate at the main road there?
Terminates at Springbrook Road.
Mr. Schomer, I previously asked if you conducted any studies or analysis regarding historically applied pesticides as defined by NJDEP. I don't think I got a definitive answer on that. Insofar that the plan was revised, are you able at this point in time to confirm whether or not there are any HAPs on site? And if so, whether they exceed NJDEP soil remediation standards?
You use the term, I just want to confirm for the record what that means specifically. What did you say?
Historically applied pesticides.
I know that there was a phase 1 and phase 2 assessment done of the property. I didn't do it up, so I mean, I don't know the details of it, so I can't really respond well to it, but there were assessments done.
And do you know when they were done?
Within the past couple of years.
Has the board seen the results of those reports?
I'm not sure myself.
I don't believe they've been submitted, but certainly if the board would like to see them, happy to provide that.
Maybe, Mr. Schomer, are you aware of what the results of those plans were? Or would you be uncomfortable testifying?
Yeah, I don't know enough about it. I know that there was a phase 1 done and a phase 2 assessment done, looking at those items, but I was not directly involved in them, so.
Would you be able to provide the board and council a copy of those reports?
I just committed to do so if the board would so like to see it. Sure. Mr. Chairman, if you're asking for them, you'll certainly get them.
Great, thank
And we'll give them to you as well, Mr. McBride.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
We talked about the pull-off area for maintenance and deliveries. If more, living in the real world, if there are more than one delivery vehicles accessing the site, where is the overflow directed to, or are they going to just park in front of the individual units?
I would expect it would be like any other street, where they probably pull up, quickly drop off and go. So that's what we typically see in single-family residential neighborhoods.
And in your opinion, the reduced cartway width, would that impact that?
The increased cartway width, I believe you mean to say, correct?
Well, the net decrease, right?
Net increase.
Well, all right, so just so we're clear, it's an
Sorry.
increase from the last plan, but it's 2 feet short of the standard.
Oh, yes,
right?
we are seeking
Yeah,
a
that's
de
what
minimis
it's
exception, but yes, we've increased it previously. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Yes,
Mr.
I think that there's adequate room for circulation.
And just in terms of relationship between the pull-off area, the singular pull-off area, what's the approximate distance from that parking area to, say, Unit 1?
I don't have the dimensions. It is at the cul-de-sac. I mean, we can see it on the plan here. Unit 1 is the first one on the left. The pull-off area is at the island. So if somebody's dropping off at Unit 1, they may just pull up. They might even pull in the driveway. Again, this is similar to other single-family residential neighborhoods. Where normally there's no pull-off areas available, you just have the roadway. So we provided one here because it came up as part of the discussion. We thought it made sense. But it'd be like any other single-family residential development.
The proposed sidewalk transects 13 driveways and 7 perpendicular visitor parking spaces. In your opinion, does this increase any safety concerns for the residents in that development?
Just for the, I think there's 10 visitors.
I was trying not to interject, Mr. Chairman, but thanks.
I'm sorry.
but the sidewalks
I'm
don't
asking
go
about
across-
they don't transect all of them.
Right.
Right. So they transect 7 visitor spaces, right? Not the 3 included in the island area, right? But if you calculate the circumference, the perceived circumference of the sidewalk, it does indeed transect 13 individual driveways and 7 visitor spaces.
Yeah, and this was testified to at a prior hearing. Mr. Schumer, you could speak to this, but it was addressed previously. And there were further modifications made to alleviate concerns from the board regarding this exact issue, but please.
But just conceptually, right? I mean, you have
It doesn't have to be
striping
conceptually, it's
or,
on the plan.
I'm asking Mr. Schumer if there are any increased safety concerns.
And we also do have a traffic engineer who can speak to this as well, but Mr. Schumer, please.
In my opinion, it's adequate and safe and not unlike other single-family residential developments. And we have made some changes in response to board questions about that issue to extend the sidewalks across the driveways. So in my opinion, this is an appropriate and safe arrangement.
Mr. Schumer, on page 5 of your plan set, you depict the existing conditions. This is a revised plan set. I had previously asked several questions regarding the inlets along Springbrook Road. There are 2 of them, correct?
I don't know the exact number of existing inlets on Springbrook Road.
Do you have your plan set, or can we put it up on the screen?
What plan set are you referring to? Because you said that there was a revised one. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Your most recent plan set that's under consideration this evening.
So the one dated
It's like May.
5/6.
Yeah. The 2 inlets are located, I believe, here and here. Is that correct?
So wait, what sheet? Just want to confirm we're all on the same sheet. What sheet?
5. It's 5 of 17, I believe it is. That's good. Thank you. So I see 2 inlets on Springbrook Road. Do you see those?
Oh, sorry. My mistake. I zipped when I should have zagged. Well, there are 4 inlets along the property frontage on Springbrook Road.
But the 2 I've pointed out have discharge pipes that flow into the site, correct?
No, sir, they do not flow into the site.
They're located on site.
There are some pipes on site, yes.
Are any of the proposed improvements slated to be constructed on top of those pipes?
Those pipes that you're referring to are leftovers from some past activities on site. So they're not really functioning as active drainage features or facilities. So there will be improvements over those, and those will be removed.
And when you say to be verified, there was no independent investigation as to where they lead. Is that correct?
They lead into the site, but they're not functional anymore.
So the answer is yes, there was, correct, Mr. Schumer?
The answer is yes. We looked at them and they're there, but they're not functional anymore.
Thank you.
Were any soil testing performed on the site?
For what?
Any test pits performed on site
Related to stormwater management?
or any soil test pits conducted on the site, Mr. Schomer?
There was testing done, as I said, there was phase 1 and phase 2 assessments done, and I don't know exactly the nature of the testing that was done on site with respect to that.
But you and your firm didn't perform any independent soil testing on the site, correct?
Just want to confirm again, soil testing is done for numerous different purposes. Test pits are dug for different reasons. Soil borings are taken for different reasons. What specifically are you asking him?
The question was intentionally broad to understand if
you
any soil testing was performed at the site. Clearly, it was not.
I don't think that was the answer, but thank you. Thank you.
As I mentioned, there was a phase 1 and a phase 2 assessment done, which was done by our firm, to be honest, but I was not involved in it. I'm not an environmental expert. So those were done. The nature of exactly what testing was done, I know there was soil testing done, but the exact nature I can't testify to.
Are any accessory structures contemplated at the development?
Accessory structures, do you have something specifically in mind?
Sheds?
No.
Just to, Mr. Schomer, what we're proposing is shown on the plan, correct, to be constructed?
It is correct.
Thank you.
That's all I have for now, but I do look forward to receiving those phase 1 and phase 2 reports. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from attorneys? Then we'll go to the public.
Mr. Schomer, good evening. Nice to see you again. Following up on the question about testing,
Would
was
you
it?
just identify?
I apologize, Mr. Oler. Richard DeAngelis, Connell Foley, who are the owner at 236 Mount Kimball Ave. Mr. Schomer, are you aware, was there any geotech analysis done on the site?
Not that I'm aware of.
Anything in particular, any analysis of the slope along the easement area, I guess to the left on the plan?
I'm not sure I understand.
If
the
you could
question.
maybe pull this out, you would agree there's a slope along the, I guess, the western boundary. I don't see the mark right here, correct?
Yeah, the property slopes from that area all the way to the right as we're looking at the plan. So yes, it slopes all the way down.
And you would agree it's a fairly significant slope?
Objection to the characterization, but you can testify to it.
We have a slopes analysis, and I don't think, it depends on your characterization of steep slopes. Let's see. It's not significant steep slopes, if that's what you're referring to.
And are you aware, was there any strike that? The project will require digging into the slope, correct?
There will be some earthwork done in that slope.
And has there been?
Just to, if I may clarify, we did a slopes analysis. I was just refreshing my memory. And it's actually on here, the only areas of designated steep slopes were right down in the corner. So those were the only areas identified as steep slopes because we're required to do a slopes analysis plan as part of the submission.
So there was no analysis of the impact of the earthwork to be performed along the property closer to Springbrook Ave?
Can we just be more specific? Mr. DeAngelis, I think you're referring specifically to the easement area and driveway, correct? I just want to make sure it's
Along that area,
along the area of the driveway, right?
correct.
Thank you.
So is your question,
Was any analysis done of the impact on those slopes as a result of the planned earth moving in that area?
there was no slopes analysis done there. It's not a designated steep slope area.
And is it, based on this plan, it looks like you're moving all but a couple of the trees out closer along that slope, all but a couple of the trees out along Springbrook, correct?
Along Springbrook?
In other words, those trees that are circled in orange along Springbrook, those are going to remain, correct?
That's correct.
And all the other trees along that slope are coming out?
The other trees along that left side and the others on the, indicated on the site, will be removed, correct?
And again, there was no analysis of the impact on this work, the tree removal, digging into the slope, on the stability of the slope and the driveway above it.
No, that was not warranted.
Thank you.
Can I ask just a follow-up on that? How close will the soil disturbance be to the easement area?
We're disturbing up close to that property line. So pretty much at the property line, we will have a slope coming down. We're doing some regrading in there.
Will that impact the easement?
No,
Will any erosion occur to the easement as a result of that disturbance?
no.
Okay. Any members of council, do you have some follow-up questions? I saw you moving around. Is that just? No. Okay, any members of the public with questions of this witness? Please come up to the microphone.
You know, before you do, I just want to point out, if you are represented by Mr. McBriar, then you're not permitted to make questions now. Okay.
Good evening. Nick Liakis, 1 Springbrook Road. Can we bring up the last slide, please, the overall map? I'm not prepared with any notes or anything. I'm just going off the memory here.
Yeah, Mr. Liakis, you're representing yourself now, correct?
Yes.
Gibbons firm has withdrawn from your representation?
Correct.
Okay.
You want to look at the exhibit
Mutual.
we had up?
No,
mutual
I
agreement.
didn't mean anything by negative. Yeah.
You wanted to look at the, that
Yes,
exhibit
please,
we have?
please.
Sure.
So this is the first time I'm seeing this, so excuse me if I'm, not fully familiar, but some of the questions that you were asked earlier, I believe a lot of your answers went back to the fact that a lot of what will be done will be similar to any single-family type house and any type of neighborhood in the area where you would see with regards to delivery of packages and snow removal and things like that, correct?
I don't think he said that necessarily, but generally.
Well-
Let him, he can differentiate what is not.
This is a development of single-family homes. As I said, it's not like others in that it's not individual lots, but you wouldn't know that when you drive down the street, whether there's lot lines or not. So it's very similar. The density here, for example, is similar to the RA15 zone. So in terms of density, it'd be like you'd see in other single-family homes. So I made some reference to that would be similar in many
Okay.
respects.
Now, one of the things that I just want to get a better understanding of, from a bird's eye perspective of this project, there are, maybe some similarities to single-family homes, but if you look at all of the things in its totality that may add up, it may create certainly a different type of circumstance. For example, if you have multiple package deliveries that the council discussed, and let's say there's a truck in the pull-off area and you have another delivery service, I think you referenced that someone, like any normal neighborhood, a single-family neighborhood, you'd expect them to pull up in front of the home, come out, drop off the package, and the delivery is over and the obstruction, so to speak, in the driveway or the roadway is gone. Would you agree, though, sir, that in this limited area, let's say the roadway of New Road A, in normal single-family homes in the area, there's not such a dense amount of homes, correct?
I can't even fathom an answer to that, and I apologize. Mr. Schoenberg, do you want him to restate the question? Or do you understand the question? I know the gist of the question.
I'll rephrase
Mr.
it.
Liakis, you are a trial lawyer, I know that, so you could formulate a more specific question.
If you like, I will. I usually prepare for trial, though. I didn't prepare for this. If you'd like me to formulate a more specific question, I can get to it if you like. So
Can I
I'll withdraw the question.
Rephrase.
Okay, I'll rephrase. So this, do you have, because I don't have this dimension, do you have how long of a roadway this is? Do you know what that number is? Is it, 500 feet of roadway? Is it, do you have that type of data in front of you?
The length of the roadway?
Right.
It's, bear with me one second. And it depends on how you want to measure it, but if you start at Springbrook Road and go all the way up and all the way around the loop, so if you start at Springbrook Road and come up the center line, come all the way around the loop and back and close off the loop, it's roughly 600 feet.
Okay, so about 600 feet in a cookie cutter, non-variance needed, and excuse my not knowing terms or anything about land use at all. But in a regular circumstance where you kind of alluded to, it's like a normal single family type of scenario. In a 600-foot area of roadway, you wouldn't expect there to be 13 individual homes. Fair to say that's the reason for the variance, right? You wouldn't expect that?
I don't think that's not the reason for the variance. And just to be clear, and I want to get to the gist of it, because I know you have legitimate questions and you're a neighbor and you should ask all your questions. I certainly agree. But this is a cluster development, right, of 13 single family homes. Okay. It's going to operate as was testified to. There's a roadway, there's pull off area for maintenance equipment, et cetera. Each home has an individual driveway. They probably will receive deliveries. I think the question is, in the worst case scenario, if 500 Amazon cars come here at one time, how would they navigate the site? Is that the gist of the question?
Not 500, but more than one.
Hyperbole,
Right.
sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
So if more than one, and the reason I was talking about a bird's eye view is, when you talk about having the roadway shortened or the width shortened by a few feet, right, about 10% or somewhere along those lines, right, from 24 to 22, whatever it was, and you add on to the fact that there is an increased density of single family homes, right, and you add on to the fact that there is obviously going to be potentially not parking for neighbors and things like that, and you add all of that together, you could create a scenario where you have more difficult navigation of traffic, knowing that there are more people, there are more packages being delivered. This is not like a neighborhood like my house, which is right down the block here. I have one neighbor, right? Or down Armstrong, the homes are spread out more. So in this scenario, when you put it all together with the width exception, with the setback exceptions and the increased population, we can agree that it would not be and it would not operate like the classic single family home neighborhoods that we have alongside, correct?
Long-winded question.
Mr.
No, I-
Yakis, just point of reference, you're saying like a regular neighborhood. You're living in an RA 15 zone, 15,000 square feet. You also have RA 7, which is what, 7,500?
Yeah.
7,500 square feet, which is like half the size of the lots that you're referring to. So that density would be twice as much as yours. So just keep that in mind when you're asking the question.
Well, sir, I was only referencing when I forgot your name, sir. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Scholmer?
Yes.
Mr. Scholmer, when you made reference to, certain answers that you had, you said that it wouldn't be unlike a normal scenario in a single family home where you push the snow onto the green space, or you can pass a delivery truck or things like that. And ultimately the point that I'm getting at is I just want to make the distinction that this is not like that type of scenario, right? What you were mentioning before, it's just like another single family neighborhood. This, when you put it all together from a bird's eye perspective, this would not be like that because of all of the different moving parts.
May I answer now?
Yeah. If I've asked the proper question yet. Yeah.
I'm waiting for the question to stop. Thank you. No, it is just like other single-family homes. As the chairman pointed out, and as I testified to earlier, this is similar density to RA 15 zone. If you had lot lines here, you'd be looking at lot widths of, say, 85 feet along this frontage. If you had a different zone of single-family homes, you'd have smaller lots and greater density. So it is, in that respect, just like other single-family neighborhoods. It's a cul-de-sac of 13 homes, similar to other small lot sizes of like 15,000 and less dense than 7,500 square foot, the RA7 zone. So when I said it's like others, I meant that it's like others. It's different in that it's not as, they're not going to be 13 lots. That's the only difference. And you don't see lot lines when you're driving down the street. So density wise, it's similar. Spatial wise, it's similar. The width of the road, as I mentioned, we actually used a narrower road on a more dense development in the township, and it functions quite satisfactorily. So I'm not concerned about the about the congestion of deliveries in a neighborhood like this. I think and we have a turnoff area here that you don't see in other areas. And you have driveways that can be entered into. So I'm satisfied, and we'll have our traffic engineer can testify maybe similarly or expand and probably say it more eloquently than I can, but I think it is very much like other single-family home developments.
And just some quickly general principles that I just want, so we can get it out on the record. 13 homes, obviously that density, any decrease in that density would obviously decrease the potential for traffic. Fair?
Our traffic engineer is going to talk about traffic generation, so.
Well, I was kind of tying it into the delivery and things like that. The point is, and I've been very upfront with Mr. Lapper about this, is I don't think anyone here is against development. I think everyone here is against overdevelopment. So, the question was kind of going back to the fact of looking at it a bird's eye view of all the moving parts, the slight variances of the width of the roadway and the amount of homes. By decreasing the homes, I think we can all just agree on a very basic principle. By decreasing the homes, you would also decrease issues with deliveries and things of that nature. And that's all I was trying to get at. And I'm sorry I did it in a horrible, roundabout, unprepared way.
No, don't apologize. You're asking questions, you're a neighbor. The answer is any development has benefits. To us, we think this is an extremely rational proposal, and our traffic engineer will address those questions as far as trip generation and traffic impact, because I don't think you think it what it is, respectfully. So I'd like to, move on, and I promise you'll have the opportunity to ask that exact question if you want to our traffic engineer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I think that's all for tonight.
Okay. Any other member of the public with questions? Seeing none, hearing none, close the public portion. Board members, any follow-up questions?
I do have one question,
Yes.
Chairman. Somebody raised a good point about the accessibility to the public of the sidewalk along Springbrook Road. And I would think that, I understand that it's a homeowners association, but I can also understand people walking down the street might want to walk on a sidewalk rather than the street.
So just to clarify, Mr. Benoit, there's no longer a sidewalk being proposed along Springbrook. The question was the internal sidewalk network to the HOA.
Okay.
So because of the pocket park being eliminated, the extension to that property no longer is part of the plan.
There's no sidewalk along Springbrook Road.
As far as this current version of the
So
plan.
is there an ordinance? Dave, I'm sorry, I wanted. Should the developer put a sidewalk along the street?
In theory, yes, but it's going nowhere. There's no.
Well, we have a lot of this tax is going nowhere, but it's there for the next development. I don't know if there's an ordinance that requires it, or whether it's just something that.
There's a sidewalk requirement in the ordinance that they can ask for a waiver on because it would be a sidewalk in nowhere.
And is that what they've done? They've asked for a waiver?
I'm sorry, I was speaking to my client.
So the conversation was about putting a sidewalk along Springbrook Road to get you up to Mount Campbell.
To get to Mount
To get
Kimball?
to Mount Campbell, recognizing there's no sidewalk once you get to Mount Campbell.
Well,
But there might be in
But
some
also,
future
but also,
development.
they don't have no property going up to Mount Kimball anymore. We're not under
Right.
contract.
You could only get,
They don't have
oh,
any-
it would only be the frontage of this
So
property.
yeah, to just, if the sidewalk is being requested along our street frontage, it's something we can certainly reincorporate into the plan. We no longer control those two pieces on the corner
Correct.
to go to Mount Kimball, so that's not possible. We certainly can add that back into the plan if that's what the board is requesting. Correct, and we don't control Springbrook, correct.
So it would just be a sidewalk from one end of your property.
It would be from one end of our property to the other,
Along the street frontage.
along the street frontage, correct.
Which is not unusual.
Oh, I understand, I'm just like saying, how many people walk along that section of property?
And I
I agree with you on that, because it's not like you're on Madison Avenue.
Yeah, it's not like you're on Madison Avenue. Most people are going slow. They're either going into the adjoining neighborhoods or they're going to the country club. And have to watch for golf carts anyway.
And it's my understanding that they're really to the, if you just look plan left, plan right of us, there is no existing sideway network.
Right.
So we would literally be isolated. But if the board's preference is to have sidewalk in front, we would accommodate the request.
Across the street from your house,
Yeah, if we can get that settled right now, what's the sense of the board as far as the sidewalk? My sense is that I don't think it's necessary, but I'd like to hear everybody else's opinion.
And just, I apologize, Mr. Chairman, to jump in again. There may be a slight modification to some of the existing trees that have to be removed as far as that to accommodate it.
Right.
We can do that. The landscape plan would have to be modified.
Right, so there wouldn't be many trees along Springbrook.
I don't know if not as many, but some of the trees we're trying to retain may have to be removed as a result.
And Rusty, just for the board's consideration, can you verify the length of that street frontage?
Bear with me. Rich.
It's about 600.
597.
Thanks, Dave. I concur.
Okay, just so the board's aware, it's about 600 feet in length of sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yep.
My sense is that it's not necessary, but I'd like to hear everybody else's opinion.
I agree with you, not necessary.
Well, there's no sidewalk on Mount Kimball, right?
Correct.
Correct.
So we're increasing the impact in this development. People will walk up to the corner. I would think that we would need a sidewalk on that side.
Any other?
Who's gonna walk up to the corner? People from Springbrook?
Well, probably not these particular owners, but somebody
Next
eventually will. They're
development?
gonna have children. They may have children. I mean, this is not a senior housing, right? So
Right.
they're gonna have children, they're gonna go to school, they're gonna do something up and down the sidewalk, I would imagine. If
The
they wanna get to
residents from
Mount
this
Kimball.
development.
Correct.
The residents from this development.
And the only benefit I could see is potentially for this type of neighborhood, maybe there'll be 5 homeowners that actually belong to the club and may want to walk to the club, right? So from the safety perspective, I mean, that's speculation, but you could see that happening as well.
That's not towards the club, but that's
going
the other way.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't it be going both ways along Springbrook we're talking about?
Only the street frontage. Only the 600 feet of street frontage for this lot. And the entrance to the golf club is the other way.
And I don't believe there's sidewalk on Mount Kimball as well. So
No.
again, we defer to the board ultimately, but it is just, you're looking at floating sidewalk basically in front of our property. So
My only question, I guess, from Mr. Hanson's comments was, is a waiver required? Do they have to file for the waiver from the ordinance as part of their application?
Is it a wait? It's not going to be a variance because it's not
No,
required in zoning.
It's a
It's
design
just a straight design. So if there's a design standard that requires it, it would be a waiver of that.
And
design
I
standard.
believe as part of the ordinance, there's a payment in lieu of providing the sidewalk. So we would, obviously, if we're not providing it, we have to pay into our fair share contribution of that, and that would be used elsewhere in the municipality. So
And I can get a sidewalk.
No comment. There's many objectors, so no comment on
I'm
that.
fine if they consider to the side because there's so many places in this township.
You okay with no sidewalk? So I think that's what we're gonna go, all right? Okay. Any other members?
Just for the record, I don't control who gets sidewalks.
We know, Mr. Benoit. I was
Any other
joking.
members, just based on this discussion, any members of the public with questions? Seeing none, hearing none, close the public portion. Next witness, or should we take a 5-minute break? 5-minute break?
Was there a member of the public who still had a question?
Is there a member of the public? No.
No.
Is there a comments section?
That's at the end. So we'll take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
This is maybe turn 2. Don't worry. Turn 2, come on. Turn 2.
Okay, let's start that at roll call.
Yes, Mr. Cannon. Mr. Goldberg.
Yes, here.
Mr. Trachtenberg.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Ms. Simmons.
Yes.
Mr. Benoit.
Here.
Mr. Kramer.
Here.
Mr. Woodford.
Here.
Mr. Oler.
Here.
Mr. Hanson.
Here.
Mr. Fishinger.
Here.
Ms. Keller. Here. And I, Sonia Santiago, here.
Okay, council.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, it is still Joshua Kudre on behalf of the applicant. I'd like to call our next witness, please, Mr. Craig Paraguay from Dynamic Traffic.
Would you stand? I was going to do it again anyway. I haven't seen you in 6 months. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you'll give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And just state your full name for the record, please.
Sure, my name is Craig Paraguay, Peregoy. Business address 245 Main Street, Chester, New Jersey, with Dynamic Traffic.
And we qualified you on this application prior?
Not yet, Mr.
Not
Aller.
this one.
No. So, Mr. Paraguay, I do know you've been qualified and accepted by this board in the past as an expert in the field of traffic engineering, but if you can, for the members of the public, please provide the board with your educational background, professional licenses that you hold, and any relevant work experience, please.
Sure. I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Virginia Tech. I'm a licensed professional engineer in New Jersey, and I've been working as a traffic engineer for 24 years now. I testify pretty much on a nightly basis in front of planning and zoning boards, including here a couple months ago in Morris Township, the one you did the resolution for earlier tonight, actually.
Okay. Mr. Chairman.
We'll accept him as an expert in traffic.
Thank you so much. So, Mr. Paraguay, your firm prepared a traffic impact and parking assessment that was dated January 18th, 2024, and that was submitted to the board. Was that report prepared by you or under your direct supervision?
It was.
Okay. And can you just confirm for the record that I don't believe you were present at all the hearings, but that you reviewed the transcripts of the prior hearings?
I did.
Okay, great. All right, Mr. Parago, I don't want to, it's getting a little late, so why don't you just kick it off and just give the board an overview of your traffic?
Yeah, and the report that was submitted was for the prior plan, the 16-unit plan. So the numbers I give you tonight will be for obviously the current, the 13-unit plan. Not much change there, but I'll start just talking about the traffic generation and the trip generation of the project. What we use to project traffic generation is the ITE, or the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. It's a compilation of traffic counts taken at various land uses, and in this case, they have a pretty solid data set for single-family homes. So I referenced that data, and what we look at as traffic engineers is the peak hours, the busiest hour. So weekday morning, weekday evening, rush hour time periods, and then the Saturday midday shopping time period are the three time periods that are typically focused on. And in terms of traffic generation for the proposed project, 13 single-family homes. Morning peak hour trip generation is 3 entering and 9 exiting trips for a total of 12 vehicular trips. A trip is a vehicle entering or exiting. The weekday evening peak hour, 9 entering, 6 exiting for a total of 15. And then that Saturday midday shopping hour, 11 entering, 10 exiting for a total of 21. Now, generally, what's considered a significant increase in traffic in the industry, and what the New Jersey DOT calls a significant increase in traffic, is 100 or more peak hour trips. So we're at roughly, at worst, about 20% of that. So certainly not a heavy traffic generator. And I don't think you need a traffic engineer to tell you that 13 homes isn't going to create a lot of traffic, and obviously the numbers show that. Mr. Fishinger asked in his report to take it a little step farther and talk about the distribution and dispersion of that traffic. And I think based on this site setting, what we typically look at is the location of major arterial roadways and then population centers. And that's sort of what drives where traffic goes to and from. So here we're right between 202 and 287. So you got a good split on Springbrook going in either direction, with 287 to the east. And then obviously Morristown being close by is a population center and employment center. So you'd have distribution there. So that traffic as it comes out of this development is going to go in both directions and even be less significant as it gets farther from this site in terms of the actual traffic impact and traffic generation. So that was sort of the first part of our analysis, is just to identify that trip generation and verify essentially that we're not going to see any substantial or noticeable impact if you were standing out on the road today versus when this is built. The second part of it was to look at the circulation and the parking and the compliance with the RSIS. And you heard from the prior testimony that we've identified 2 de minimis exceptions from the RSIS, and both of them I think are really sort of technicalities. Essentially, the first one that was discussed earlier by Mr. Schomer, in order to count the parking spaces in the driveway that are outside of the garage, the way the RSIS reads is that you need to have a 20-foot width all the way to the street. Well, I think that was written really envisioning pulling straight into a front-facing garage, not this scenario. Clearly, there's physically enough room to park 2 cars behind those garage doors. So it's sort of a technical issue. Realistically, that width is available, that parking area is available. Even though we've narrowed the connection to the street to 12 feet, which I think makes sense. You wouldn't want that excess pavement just for a technicality in the RSIS. That's the first one. The second one that got a little bit of discussion is that cartway width, where we have 22 feet and 24 feet is required. Now, the only reason that we need the 24 feet is because we have those perpendicular visitor parking spaces. If you took those away and just proposed the 13 single-family homes, that requirement would only be 20 feet. So we're actually going 2 feet beyond what we would need for two-way traffic. The 24 feet is for maneuverability into and out of a perpendicular parking space. When you go to any shopping center or the grocery store, it's a 24-foot aisle with those perpendicular parking spaces. So that's carried into the RSIS for maneuvering in there. In this case, the fact that we've set those parking spaces 4 feet deeper to provide sidewalk access more than makes up for that little bit of loss of maneuverability into the parking spaces. So again, it's a sort of a technicality that we need to go to the 24 feet, but I think you're going to actually have an easier time pulling in and out of those visitor spaces with their setback, the 4 foot setback, than you would have with just a straight up 24-foot road, and we're all again able to save that extra 2 feet of pavement width. I know around town, and Mr. Schomer has testified that 20 feet with those sloped curbs has worked successfully. I see no reason why it wouldn't be even better here with the 22 feet, those sloped curbs, and I think very easy access to those parking spaces. So those are the two de minimis exceptions from the RSIS. And it does say in the RSIS itself, it gives examples of different exceptions, and reducing the cartway width is one of the examples it gives. So this isn't like some, unusual thing. And all it has to do, and there's 4 criteria to grant an exception. It's consistent with the intent of the Site Improvement Act. Both of them, as I just mentioned, I think clearly are. It's reasonable, limited, and not duly burdensome. Like I said, I think, they're just really technicalities, so certainly not burdensome. The third one is it has to meet the needs of public health and safety. None of these things rise to the level of a safety concern. And then 4 takes into account the existing infrastructure and possible future development. That's not really applicable here. This is a dead-end street that's never going to continue on. But just for the purposes of the record, those 4 criteria in the RSIS are clearly met for those 2, again, technical de minimis exceptions that are required. And that's really it. That's really what our report for, something small like in terms of traffic generation like this focuses on, is more the site layout. I know there's been a lot of back and forth from the original plan to this plan. I think things have only gotten better with the interaction with the board and your professionals. So I think we're in a good place right now in terms of the layout, parking supply, driveway access. Everything is a little bit better than the original plan, and that's obviously the goal of this process. That's all I have.
And just to confirm, and I know you stated it, but I just want it to be clear for the record. You've reviewed the review letter, specifically though, the comments from the fire official as well?
Yes, I understand the fire official. He's seen the I know there's fire hydrant locations, which isn't really my area, but the vehicular circulation is shown on Mr. Schomer's plans. It works, and he's satisfied.
And you're satisfied as
And me
well as
too.
a professional traffic engineer?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. All right. That's all I have on direct, Mr. Chairman.
What would you, when you say peak hours, what do you do? How do you calculate peak hours, and what are they?
The peak hour, the morning is the single busiest hour, generally between 7 and 9 in the morning, and then the evening between 4 and 6 in the evening. And then on Saturday, it's the busiest hour between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. It's, varies depending on where. What I'm looking at is the hour that this project would generate its most traffic. So some individual hour during a weekday morning, this would generate 12 trips.
And there wouldn't be any problem getting on the Springbrook Road out of here?
No, absolutely not. That's extremely low traffic volumes. Like I said, if you counted the number of cars going up and down the road today, it might be 12 different tomorrow just by happenstance. So it's very small.
What about the sight lines as you're coming out of this road?
Yeah, I took a look at Mr. Schomer put together a site visibility plan. The road's very straight. The distance is there. Mr. Fishinger wants us to pull it back 4.5 feet to meet the AASHTO standard. Doing that it's still going to be fine. The fence at the front might pull back a little bit to pull out of that sight line, but there's no obstructions and no visibility issues. We won't put the fence in the site triangle.
Okay. Board members, any questions? None? Mr. Fisher?
Nothing in particular. As Mr. Paraguay said, I looked at the site triangles, and they are going to have to move that fence back a little bit, but I don't believe it's going to take out any trees or anything. It should be a minor correction. The one question, Craig, just so the board is clear, the trip generation numbers you're giving, that's total traffic, correct? That includes delivery vehicles or visitors. That's not just people coming in and out.
Yes, vehicular trips. It could be a visitor, it could be a delivery vehicle, it could be a resident.
No other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, from a standpoint of complying with the fence, how are we gonna determine how far back that fence has to go? Is that just something we're gonna wing as we go along, or is there some?
We'll revise that exhibit and show the line of sight and then just make sure
So-
the fence is in it.
The numbers in my review memo that I pulled out of ASHTO, which is the standard 14 and a half feet back from the edge of the traveled way. And then the distance is based on the speed limit. I don't remember the exact number. Craig, I'm assuming you'll agree to comply with those calculations. So they can put a new site triangle specific to those numbers on the site plan and just set the fence right behind that line.
And then at the time of construction, we can then go out there, do the measurements, and if it's gotta be tweaked a little bit, it'll be tweaked to make it work.
Okay.
Because we do that with planting right now on some of the corporate centers, and we even did it at James Place where we had to move some landscaping around for some of the site distances. So it's not uncommon to do it during construction.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We might as well talk about delivery trucks.
So,
how did I know that might come up?
It's raised as an issue. So, do you have any sense for nowadays, during the day, in the early evening, how many trucks would go to a residential area like this and the duration that they're there, and kind of speaking for the room in general, and how long they're there and what it might take to just make sure there's no blockage?
Yeah, I mean, the number of trucks is variable, obviously based on the time of the year and the season. Like if it's my neighborhood, my house gets, I don't know, 10 of them a day. I feel like the Amazon guy's always there. I'm sure my Ring doorbell just went off a minute ago for it. So it really, it's variable throughout the day, but generally they pull up on the curbside and, on my street, I measure it as 20 feet wide. So I'm 2 feet shorter than this. They pull up on the curbside. It's 15, 20 seconds. They throw the package on the porch, take the picture of it, and they're gone. So it's really not, to me, it's not a big obstruction, and it's common all over the place. Here we have that extra 2 feet. Occasionally, if they're going to be there a little longer, they'll pull into the driveway. But for just a quick drop off, even if you provided some space for them, they wouldn't pull into it. They want to go as efficiently, as quickly as possible. And believe me, my neighbors complain about everything, and that's one complaint I haven't heard is the delivery trucks being parked on the street. It really isn't an issue.
Any other board members have questions?
I have a question. Just to follow up on that, we also heard some comments from the public about the width of the road with delivery trucks. So if you had a delivery truck that was stopped on the side of the road, as you just anticipated would happen, and the second truck came by, is the road wide enough that that second truck can get by?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And remember, we're 2 feet wider than we would be required if we didn't have that parking. We're actually 2 feet more than the RSI envisioned for this side street.
Any other board members with questions? Any professionals with questions? Any of the attorneys with questions?
Robert McBriar, Skank Price Smith and King. Mr. Paragoy, is that? Thank you. Excellent. Did you perform any field inspections of the subject property in connection with preparation of your report?
We did, yes.
And did you personally?
Yes.
And when was that? Approximately.
I'm familiar with the area. I'm in the area a lot. I do a lot of work in Morristown, but I specifically looking at this site, I went maybe 2 weeks ago for a field recon, and on the way here today, I always like to stop by
And when you say field recon, can you give us a little better understanding of what it entails when you do your site visit? Like, what are you doing? Traffic monitoring, observations, traffic counts, and the like?
For a project like this, we weren't doing traffic counting, just more observations of, the neighborhood, traffic flows. Site distance is one of the things that we always take a look at and see if there's any issues. Just getting a sense of the area. For a larger project where we were doing a full analysis, then we would do the traffic counts, but with this smaller project, it's not necessary.
Did you perform any analysis or study regarding the existing traffic operations at the intersection of Springbrook Road and Mount Kimball Road?
No, we didn't, we did not do any traffic analysis. That intersection exists and this project would have a minimal impact to it.
Are you aware of, in your research regarding the area, any accidents at that particular intersection?
No, nothing that I'm aware of, and this was reviewed by Township Services, and I haven't heard anything of that effect.
Did you perform any study or analysis with respect to the traffic currently utilizing Springbrook Road? In your report, you stated, quote, "Parking layout and supply was assessed based on accepted design standards and demand experienced at similar developments." I referenced page 1, your 4th bullet point. What developments are you specifically referring to?
Just like the ITE has, well, the RSIS is based on New Jersey standards, but just like the ITE has traffic generation standards, they have parking generation standards at similar developments. We always take a look at those numbers. I take a look at census data and, just to assess the parking. In this case, the RSIS number of spaces requirement is generally much higher than reality, so it's not as critical of an issue,
But you can't identify a development by name that would be similar to the one being proposed. Is that correct?
the development by name.
Yeah, you say demand experience at similar developments. I'm trying to understand.
Single-family residential developments. The ITE manual, I don't think I had to print out with me, has, data points from hundreds of other single-family residential developments. They don't give you all the names of them, just the statistics.
But it just, by way of interpretation, similar developments doesn't mean that you looked at other developments within Morris Township and drew similarities or compared or contrasted any differences. Is that correct?
No, that's correct. Yes.
Okay. In the event of an emergency that may affect New Road A, are there any suitable entryways, alternate access routes along the perimeter to the proposed units?
What do you mean in the event of an emergency?
If the main entrance to the proposed development was somehow compromised or blocked, are there any alternate routes to access the units in the proposed development?
You mean by vehicles?
Yeah.
No, and it's not, the RSIS has it specifically considers that provision, and it's, if you have 100 or more parking spaces, you need a secondary access point or a boulevard-style entrance. We don't have 100 parking spaces, but we still have that boulevard entrance, so we're actually exceeding that threshold requirement for emergency access.
And I had asked Mr. Schomer this question. I'll ask you, based on your experience. The proposed sidewalk transects 13 driveways and 7 perpendicular visiting parking spaces. Does this present a safety concern for you?
No, not at all.
Okay, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, any other attorney with questions? Any members of the public with questions? Can we act?
Maybe quick.
Tough crowd.
Just identify yourself.
Nick Liakis, 1 Springbrook Road. You mentioned it would add 12 trips during those peak hours, correct? Okay. I just don't know, what does that mean? Is it a trip on Springbrook Road? Is that a trip from Springbrook Road to Mount Kemble to James?
Good question. It's a trip is a vehicle entering or exiting the property. So when either once they pull onto Road A or pull out of Road A, that's a trip. So when I say 12 in the morning, that's 3 cars coming in, 9 going out.
Is there any study that would give us any insight with regards to how it would affect the amount of trips on Springbrook Road or on Armstrong or any of those, I don't want to say intersecting roads, but the nearby roads?
Yeah, like I said, the New Jersey DOT basically says it's insignificant. It wouldn't have any impact, measurable impact if it's less than 100 in an hour.
Well,
Well,
So one of the things that I just was wondering is, I mean, and I don't know whatever you cited, I'm not familiar with it, but is there any study done with regards to the amount of trips over Springbrook Road or over Armstrong or those immediately surrounding, roadways, the amount of trips that are taken during those hours, and perhaps the percentage of an increase that we could expect? Because, if this was on the green, maybe, 12 trips is insignificant. But if it's somewhere that's more remote or not, accessed as much, 12 cars could be a 50 or 100 or 200% increase. And is there any type of study that would speak to that?
No, and the percent increase is not necessarily as well. Like, think about it. The evening, there's 15 trips, so that's one car every 4 minutes additional. Whether or not you're standing on a rural road in the middle of Oklahoma, if one car goes by and then you're standing there for 4 more minutes before the next one, that's nothing. If you mix that into 287, it's still nothing. So it's not necessarily a percentage thing. It's the actual number.
Right. Well, I mean, the only thing that I was trying to get at was, we obviously we don't want this to become 287 or 202, right? But, if right now there are 12 trips or 15 trips, I see a lot of, my neighbors that I, wave to in the morning when we're on our way to work and things like that, or coming home. But if we were to double that, it may have a measurable impact on the neighborhood. If you disagree, I'm going to refer you to my wife when the kids are in the front yard. Because that's the concern, I think, for a lot of the neighbors is, the amount of cars that it may add, visitors, deliveries. Now you have trucks you have to worry about, Amazon deliveries, furniture, things like that. That's going to be added because of the density here, and they have to get there somehow. So if there's some sort of a study that can be done with regards to how that might impact the neighborhood in general, I'd like to see that if it's been done.
Yeah, we wouldn't assess the entire neighborhood for a project of this magnitude and scope. That can be done for a larger project, but what I'm saying is the addition, the change in this is not something that you would be noticeable. Whether or not it was 0 cars on the road and we added 12, or it was 30,000 cars and we added 12. It's such a small amount. It's only 13 houses. How many houses are in that neighborhood all surrounding the golf course? Many times more.
And the last,
not very heavy, I don't find it to be too much traffic going through those neighborhoods. So this tiny little increase, you wouldn't notice.
I have 3 small kids that play in that front yard almost every day. So every car, is something that we look out for, especially trucks, deliveries, things like that. So that's the only reason I asked. The other question I had, was there any consideration as to putting a traffic light on the intersection of Mount Kemble and Springbrook up by that firehouse? We don't have the diagram, but on the Mount Kemble side, by the firehouse, there's the 3. I think it's like a T, almost a T. Yeah, a T intersection. It's not really a T. It's like a V. It's very odd.
There was no consideration by us to do that. I don't know if DOT has ever looked at it. That's their jurisdiction. It's their intersection.
Mr. Hanson, have you ever? No, not there. No discussions whatsoever by the township, by the state, by the county, no.
Okay. All right. And has there been any study done how that intersection may be impacted by 12 or so, vehicles, accessing one of the major throughways, 202, and how that may affect the backup towards the firehouse, how that may affect cars turning on from Springbrook Road onto Mount Kemble, and how that flow might change things in the neighborhood?
Yeah, and that's why I look at those trip generation numbers to confirm that those flows wouldn't have any impact on that intersection. Like I said, that intersection is DOT's jurisdiction. If we were doing this for DOT, they wouldn't even ask us to bother with it because it's less than 100.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members of the public with questions? Your name, sir?
Mark Haran. I live at 9 Armstrong Road, and there's a lot of things about this project that I don't like, and this one is right at the top of it. And the question is, how do you qualify that it's only going to have a tiny increase in traffic? Any increase is an increase. Like, at what level, at what number would you say, yeah, that is a big impact on the traffic in the neighborhood?
100.
You would need at least 100 to have an impact in our neighborhood?
That's the generally accepted by traffic engineers and by New Jersey DOT. It's 100 peak hour trips is when you might, and not even that is guaranteeing that you're going to have a negative impact. It's when you want to check and see.
So we have in our neighborhood, I live on Armstrong Road, which is a huge cut through for everybody in Morristown getting to 287 to get to the ramp on James Street. And cars fly down that road. So we have a lot of walkers as well. People come from neighborhoods all over town, from the whole James Place area that walk around our neighborhood. We have tons of walkers, we have tons of dogs, and people fly down that road to get to 287. So, you know, to the point where if you're walking down the road and then you've got guys coming out of Springbrook, late getting home or late for their tea time, speeding down the road. So if you're walking on...
You gotta ask a question.
Yeah, I just think that, I think it's inaccurate to say that 13 is tiny. And I wanted to understand how you qualify that. And to say that it's 100, I disagree with that. I think any increase is an unacceptable increase. And 13 just, it's too much.
I got it.
So maybe more of a comment than a question.
That was a comment.
That
but
was a comment.
thank you.
You'll have an opportunity when you get sworn in to be able to make your comment.
Will do.
Any other members of the public? There's one more comment.
Hello, my name is Amanda Wolberg, 249 Mount Kemble Ave. My question is, maybe you don't know it. What is the width of Springbrook? Just so I can make a comparison. Does anybody know the width?
Give me 1 second.
Okay, because I just wanted to like understand compared to Springbrook, if this new area is going to be any smaller. When I'm on Springbrook walking, and I mean, everybody's talking about Amazon trucks, which is fine, but I think about all the trucks for landscaping. They're enormous and they're huge, and they take up like more than half of the
Why don't we
road.
get the answer to that first question,
Okay.
and then you can ask him the question of is where would they park? and
Sure,
how
sure,
cars would
sure.
buy, Okay.
That sounds great.
Springbrook right in front of the property, I'm told it's about 25 feet wide.
So we have 25 compared to this one you said would be 22?
Yes.
Okay, so we're losing footage and yet the trucks on Springbrook, like it makes it hard for any cars to go around and that's on a much bigger like expanse,
So
but
the question is, how are you
Yeah.
accommodating for landscape trucks?
Right.
Right?
Well, this is a homeowner's, there would be one landscaper that comes, it's not each contractor to the individual home, so they would park in that carved out area.
so the one that's meant for all the delivery trucks as well?
No, that wasn't the testimony. So just to be clear, this is a proposed roadway that's 22 feet wide to serve
Sure.
this homeowners association.
Sure.
These homes. So not Springbrook Road generally.
No, I'm talking about that, but yeah, but you're saying that, so that landscaper truck that comes into the development, that would they would park in that pull-off area?
That's the intention, yeah.
So, but if there's other delivery trucks or whatever, then they have to wait the hour or 2 hours, 3 hours that the landscaper's there?
I think Mr. Paraguay testified as how Amazon deliveries typically are.
I'm not talking about, but yeah, but like, you know,
It's not a
the,
designated area for Amazon delivery trucks.
okay, so, but
wasn't
it, for any kind of bigger trucks, like,
No,
so that's
no.
where it would be? Okay,
That's where the mailboxes are.
so the mailboxes and
Landscape
the
guy and mailman
landscaper,
have to
okay,
coordinate that.
and it would fit, okay.
So just redirect briefly.
Any other members of the public with questions? Seeing none, hearing none, close the public portion.
Just a brief redirect. So, Mr. Paraguay, you testified previously, right, that even though the roadway width is 22 feet when 24 is required, if there was an Amazon or UPS style delivery truck parked on one side of the street, is a vehicle able to pass on the other side of the street?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
just wanted to confirm that for the record. So a lot of the concerns about circulation, if there's a delivery that takes longer than 35 seconds, really is accommodated with this layout, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you testified also, I think it's important, I want to emphasize this for the board because ingress and egress is important. We're proposing what you refer to as a boulevard entry, correct?
Correct.
And it's not typically required for this type of development, but I want you to just spend a second or two just explaining in a little more detail the benefits, particularly with safety of a boulevard entryway.
Yeah, the idea, the reason that it's built into the RSIS for larger, it's 100 or more parking spaces is the requirement, is if there is a car crash or an accident on one side, then the other side is free to allow ingress and egress. So you're given the option in the RSIS to either create a secondary access, an emergency access, or absent that, the boulevard. Not required here, we're doing it anyway. It looks nicer too.
And we're saying, you just explained what that means.
That we don't have 100 parking spaces on the site, so we aren't required.
He means physically.
Physically what it looks like.
Physically what it looks like.
Oh, just the island and the center of the inbound and outbound lanes at Springbrook are separated by an island.
And then just one last question. Mr. Perrigo, you are a licensed professional in the state of New Jersey, correct? We qualified you as a licensed engineer specializing in the field of traffic engineering, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you often submit reports to land use boards across the state of New Jersey that rely on ITE numbers and projections?
Yes.
And that's customary in the industry, correct?
Absolutely.
And for every project that you prepare a report for, you don't go out and do physical counts either of local roadway traffic or intersection volumes, et cetera, correct?
Correct.
And those reports have been accepted across the state of New Jersey in your,
Yes.
in your practice?
Absolutely.
And by this municipality as well, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Based on that, redirect any board members with questions. Based on that redirect, is there any member of the public with any questions? Seeing none, hearing none, close the public portion. Mr. Fishner, any questions?
No other questions.
All right, counsel.
Mr. Chairman, that's all we have tonight. I think the next order of business might be securing a continued hearing date.
Okay, and next hearing date, what do you propose on presenting?
We propose on presenting our professional planner who is seated to my right, Mr. Michael Tobia.
Okay, and he's gonna give us.
We will submit
bullet
a,
point report.
correct, his planning report that we're calling it at least 10 days in advance of that hearing.
So, when would we be? Council, are you gonna be retaining any professional planner?
Yeah, that's, I thought that should be part of the dialogue. We have two experts. We have Stephen Duda from Princeton Hydro and Michael Pesolano, professional planner. I have spoken with each in advance of tonight's hearing, and it's reasonably anticipated that each will need at least an hour, including cross-examination or any inquiries from the board.
I don't know how long we'll need for cross-examination, but I appreciate council's estimate.
Yeah. So you just have the one professional planner and then that's it.
Correct, and there would be Mr. McBride's case.
And we also have a number of members from the group that will likely provide their own fact testimony or comments regarding the pending application.
When you say their own fact testimony, they're going to be sworn in under oath to testify as to what?
Even if they give us comments, they're going to be sworn.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand.
Well, you can figure out all. All right, what date are we looking at?
Seems that we need a full meeting for this application.
Yeah. We'll be efficient.
Our next available full meeting is October 28th.
Mr. Chairman, give me 1 second.
So before you do what I think you're going to do,
Uh-oh.
do we have
Uh-oh.
dates that might not be full meetings, but we just have like a 1 or 2 simple C variances on, we get through pretty quickly?
Because I do think Mr. Tobia, and for what it's worth, I do not anticipate Mr. Tobia's direct being very long, so cross-examination.
Well, that's why
Yeah.
if we had a couple of C variances that were relatively quick, we could probably finish with Mr. Tobia, and then we can do any objector case at the next meeting, right? So.
What do we got in September?
My September meeting, I have a fee variance, which is a minor fee, okay? Land grant, that subdivision.
Okay. That's when it's a subdivision mostly in Morristown, part of it's in Morris Township. There's no house in Morris Township, but there's an existing garage or something. That's what makes it big.
They've already been to Morristown?
Yeah, they already have a Morristown approval.
Oh, okay. That's definitely big.
Yeah. that's it. Ewing's on in September? Well, it's August.
Hold on, Mike, hang on.
August is booked, totally.
Okay. Are you on Ewing? And were you shaking your head that it's not going to proceed or it's not going to?
No, it's gonna take all night.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's, okay. I just wasn't sure if you were saying it's not going to happen that
I
night.
have this
Okay.
voice to the right of me, just.
Okay.
See Mr. Nugent.
August, I'm booked.
Okay, so
So,
then I
Mr.
think they're
Chairman,
going to ask about,
I regretfully ask if the board would be amenable to considering a special meeting date.
this is July, August. Yeah, that would be after the August meeting.
Right. I'm not gonna be here for the August.
Neither will I.
I'm gonna be in, Franklin Public.
Enjoy your trip.
I'm not calling in.
You are dedicated, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, I'll give you that.
All right. Okay, so August is out of the question.
Yeah.
I'm totally booked. Okay, so that leaves me for September.
And they're usually, we look at Mondays, right?
Yeah, but the first Monday is a holiday, so that's not good.
That moves the schedule around.
I think that's Labor Day, no?
Yeah.
Yes.
That pesky Labor Day.
On September 10th, 20th, I'm not here.
Okay.
And which one do you come to? So, the first Monday is the holiday.
Yeah.
Then I have the second Monday,
Which is.
That's the 9th.
the 9th. And then the 16th is planning board. And the 23rd is this
So-
September 23rd.
Be the 9th.
Let me just make sure that's.
Is the room available?
I would have to check if the room is available tomorrow. Usually Mondays is open, but I have to double check.
So can I propose that we, let me propose this.
Yeah, I leave it at 5, even though.
Sonia, what's the next regularly scheduled meeting?
The next regular scheduled meeting is August 26th.
Could we,
That's the one that I'm booked.
no, I understand, but in an effort to preserve notice, and I'll give up on this quickly if the board says no, could we carry it just for scheduling purposes to the next regularly scheduled meeting while Ms. Santiago confirms that the 9th of September would work for a special meeting?
And that we have sufficient board members
Correct.
available.
Correct. That was part of it.
There's a
That's the
lot-
most important part, of course.
I'm not sure we've done that part yet, but yeah.
Can we take a vote on who's available for September 9th right now?
I'm available.
Okay.
Okay, hold on, let me take a note here. September 9th. Okay.
Yes.
Ed,
Yeah.
Mr. Benoit,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
I'm good.
Mr. Goldberg,
Yeah.
Mr. Trachtenberg,
Yep.
Mr. Williams,
So far, so good.
and Mr. Woodford.
Yes, I'm available.
I only have 2 more members that I have to poll, okay? Mr. Oler,
I'm available. I do want to know if Paul's available. Any idea?
He won't be on vacation. I can tell you that. I
Okay.
don't have his schedule, but you can find out.
Because I know he wants to be here when Mr. Tobia
Yeah,
testifies.
yeah, we will, yeah, I'm not sure, but
Okay.
we'll work.
you could confirm with me.
I'll confirm
Okay.
with Paul as soon as I can.
Okay.
If he can't, we will sure to work something out. I can go wherever he's supposed to.
Okay.
Mr. Fishinger, if we,
Yes,
we
I'm
need you, are you
available.
available?
I'm available on the 9th.
Okay, all right. And Mr. Rowland, you say yes.
I'm
Okay.
good.
So I have 2, 3 with the planner that I have to confirm, okay? And I also have to confirm the room. I could do that tomorrow, no problem, okay?
So then Josh's idea might be a good one to just schedule it for the August meeting for scheduling purposes only. But then we'll know if we have an issue with the room, and if not, we can then schedule it for the 9th, right?
Correct.
And then we go from there.
Correct. If the board's amenable, we would greatly appreciate it.
All right, so I'll put you on the schedule for August the 9th for meeting scheduling
Well,
date.
no, August 26th.
6.
I'll go through this for the public's purposes, but for right now, it's August 26th would be for scheduling only. Right, and then the schedule would be to a special meeting on September 9th, assuming you can confirm the room availability. Right, and if it's not available, then that's going to put you to the October meeting.
Understood. And appreciate the board's consideration, obviously, of
All right,
this
so
request.
we all good with that?
Just
Okay.
one point before, I'm not sure if Mr. McBride was done, but we did ask, and Mr. Chairman previously requested that any of his experts submit reports as well in advance of the next hearing. So I'd respectfully request that that request be made of the objector again.
Well, if, yeah, if we do a special meeting, we'll probably get to the planner also. Would you be able to generate if we do the September 9th meeting, would your planner be able to generate his report and be able to deliver it 10 days in advance of that meeting?
Well, I think that puts us at a disadvantage not having seen the applicant's planner's report.
You'll have the report by the end of the week. So
Okay.
I don't think there's much of a disadvantage.
And
But
if we could get just greater clarification, Mr. Chairman, about the contents, is this just a summary overview of what he intends? I mean, this is primarily rebuttal testimony based on the reports that have been submitted, right? So I don't know what level of detail is traditionally required on objectors' cases from this board.
Actually, we're trying to institute that professional planners submit a report in advance. So if this is a case that's generated a lot of public interest, and that's why we wanted it to be submitted in advance. And in speaking with counsel, I know that the report will be in basically outline form, so, and should be generating well in advance of any August meeting, actually. So you will have it well in advance of the September 9th.
And Mr. Chairman, just to confirm as well, I understand that, Mr. McGuire, you could answer this. The individual that you retained from Princeton Hydro, are they a professional engineer?
Yes.
Okay. And is the report primarily going to focus on the stormwater management aspects of this application?
Yes.
Okay. So because that is a very technical area, Mr. Chairman, I would respectfully submit that he should also be required to provide a report.
That would be requested. Yeah.
Particularly if they're going to, look at Mr. Schomer's report, which they've had for months now, and criticize any of that data set. So
Is that a problem?
I mean, I suspect our professionals could do an outline if they're doing separate math. Yeah, I could see that being acceptable.
Well, we think that Mr. Schomer's report is impeccably prepared and consistent with all engineering standards. So I would hope that they're not doing separate math. But yeah, if that is the case, I'd like to see the report.
Yeah, so that they have a chance to make a meaningful cross-examination.
I'd appreciate that.
And my experts are here, Mr. Chairman. If I could just have 1 minute to just consult with them on the scheduling. All right, so September 9th appears to be workable for our experts. We will just place our objection on the record regarding an advanced written report. I don't know or see it in this board's procedures or rules and regulations.
Yeah, so let me just clarify that. It's not in our rules, you're right, so we can't require it. We're asking for it. If you can provide that, and I think it's easier for your engineer, really, right, because they have the stormwater report, and it's easier for the board to be able to see that type of stuff in advance so that they'll be prepared for what to hear and what questions they might have.
Because if not, once the testimony's done, we'll probably have to have the engineer come back so we can actually absorb what he said, or he or she said, and then be able to do an ask effective questions. And that would also be true of the applicant. Because if you're going into technical detail on stormwater management, it sometimes requires a little bit of review, as you well know, in preparing for any kind of hearing.
Understood. Objections noted. Mr. Aller, I appreciate the clarification. I'll consult with our experts and report back.
So you're not committing to provide the report. That's my understanding.
We would like to.
And again, we can't require
I
it.
totally understand. I just want to make sure it's
Yeah.
clear so everyone goes into it, including the board's professionals, eyes wide open, and to coming to the next hearing. Are you committing to provide the report or not? Understanding that you're not required to. I just think the board and professionals really deserve the courtesy of knowing.
We understand the comments received tonight. We'll digest them and review them with our professionals and
So
report back.
I got a non-answer. All right.
Thank you.
All right, so for members of the public, this application is concluding this evening. It will continue on, in this room on August 26th at 7 o'clock for purposes of scheduling only. I anticipate if we can verify that the room is available on September 9th, the hearing will then continue on September 9th, but we will announce the next date at the August 26th hearing date. Okay, so no testimony in August, just a date will be selected at the August 26th hearing.
Thank you all so much for your time. See you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Any other board?
John, oh, yeah, we met in the locker room. I'm sorry. Yeah. Mark, Rand, how are you? Yeah, we met in the locker room. I apologize.
Still in session.
I'm just gonna ask that when, the 26th, since Paul's not, I'm not gonna be here. When you make that, when you schedule it, please send us an email. That's all I'm asking, a lot of us aren't gonna be around and September 9th is soon. I'm just thinking in terms of, gee, other people are gonna say, hey, can you meet, come to this? And I wanna be able to say, no. Okay, you're not. Okay.
All right, guys. That's my bedtime. See you. Fight. There you are.
No, I have something I want to bring up. We got to find out a few more times.
Not yet. We're working on
Okay, so what I want to say is we don't have a rule or a bylaw that says professional planner reports have to be submitted. So I was going to suggest that we do an amendment to your rule that says then it can be required. Agree. All right. So I will, maybe not for the next meeting, but I will do an amendment to that. Okay.
Does the planning board have, I mean, is the?
I don't know. I don't know. They don't typically have to deal with planners reports, you know, maybe, but it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're dealing with permitted uses.
Because they come in and razzing all the roads, trying to take
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Okay, let's do it. Any other business? Not motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.